Welcome to the Woodpreneur podcast, the number one podcast for the business and marketing side of the lumber, woodworking, hardwood flooring, and sawmill industry. I'm your host, Steve from Acres of Timber. Each week, we feature various wood business owners and entrepreneurs from around the globe. We share their stories, paths, insights so that you can network, learn, and grow your own wood business. Thank you so much for listening. Now enjoy the episode. Hey, welcome to a brand new episode of the Woodpreneur podcast. This is your host, Steve. Today's guest is Louis Vignapiano from LSV Carpentry. How you doing, Louis?
Good, man. How's it going?
Good. Thanks for hopping on the podcast.
Yeah, man.
Hey, so why don't you tell everybody about LSV Carpentry? How'd you guys get started?
So I've been doing this for about 10 years now, and right before the pandemic hit, I was working for a local home builder in the area, doing some high-end work, but it was everything from millwork, cabinetry to some framing. Was starting to moonlight, getting a decent flow of like after work, and then unfortunately the pandemic hit, and I was let go from the company I was working from. So instead of sitting home and not doing anything, I kind of just got the ball rolling, and there seemed to be a real big need at that time. And I was just kind of like right place at the right time and kind of haven't looked back since.
That's cool. And what kind of stuff do you guys do?
So right now I focus on mainly cabinetry and millwork.
And what more specifically, what kind of projects are you working on?
So, I mean, it's kind of like I'm in a unique situation. As far as the projects that I get and the price range of them, it seems to be like, you need to have the skill to be able to, perform and produce the work that the client's looking for. But it seems like in my area, maybe those jobs are too small for some of the bigger guys. So I kind of fall into like this like niche of a custom like boutique type of work. So, I mean, one of my last projects that I just got off of was a full cabinet and millwork project. So I did everything from all of the built-ins in about 4 or 5 different rooms. And this was a basement renovation on top of doing all of the millwork. So I ran all the crown, did all the base, casing, hung all the doors, pocket doors. Project that I'm involved with right now, I'm actually building a pair of stairs that's going up to like a kid's loft area with like underneath shelving that's going to be lit up. So it's kind of like, it's all custom carpentry work, but all different. So I get the cabinetry work, I get the millwork, and then like the unique project like this loft stairs that I'm building now.
That's cool. That's cool. It kind of sounds like you really like what you do.
Yeah. So like I said, this is about 10 years now that I've been doing this, and didn't have anybody in the trades to kind of get going, or at least, get my foot in the door. And I started by doing a restoration work. So I literally cleaned up like sewer, fire, and mortar damage. Did that for about a year, got involved in a little bit of the like finish work side. So maybe doing like drywall and some casing stuff. And I just saw that like my attention and like my eagerness to learn more was really focused there. And I just ran with it.
Yeah, yeah. And how are you getting most of your projects right now?
So everything's kind of been word of mouth. Social media has been really like a super big positive as far as getting.
Hey, Steve Larzaliere here. Sorry to interrupt this great episode of the Woodpreneur podcast, but I want to let you know that we are just releasing our latest training. And over this training, I go over how I helped generate $200,000 and 300 leads for clients. And during this 45-minute training, we will go over the frameworks, the strategies, and the concepts that you need to scale from 6 figures to 7 figures, or even just get started. These are the building blocks that I've seen help wood, lumber, furniture, millwork companies grow and scale. So I've been hearing it lots of times, like, I just need a training, I need a training. So we finally put it together. So wherever you're consuming this, just click the link in the description and you'll be able to access it.
A lot of clients that kind of just follow me in the area with the right hashtags and certain things that they look up. About a year and a half ago, 2 years, I got very fortunate with a designer that I've been doing a lot of work for. And she's kind of gotten me rolling with some of the bigger projects and at least a good portfolio start build of like my own work to showcase. And from there, it's just kind of, it's really been word of mouth and social media.
That's cool. Your stuff is really nice. Um, do you get into accent walls at all, or no? Not really.
So, I mean, the accent walls, like the one of the last projects that I just did was a mud room bench built-in area, little, drop-off zone for the family. And behind there, they kind of had me do an Art Deco wall that a couple of inspiration pictures, and then, I sat down with the client for about an hour, kind of laying out different patterns and came up with, a cool feature like that. I don't have anything that I won't do. As far as like those accent walls or anything like that, if it's creative and it really like sparks my interest, I
Yeah.
know for myself that I'd be able to give 120% to the client because I'm enjoying what I'm doing. So there's a lot of passion driven behind, the projects that I do.
What's kind of one of the biggest challenges in your business slash industry?
So I mean, I guess it could be across the board. Like if you talk to guys in the industry, particularly where I'm at, the competition is very high. So
Yeah.
it's more or less getting your name in and getting in with the right group of people to continue the steady workflow.
Hmm.
Not having the downtides and riding the wave that it was like. I mean, I can tell you in the beginning, the first official of like, official licensing, insurances, and moving to a brand new area, it was a struggle of trying to get your name out there, and it's just coming up with different ways, trying to think outside the box of,
Yeah.
letting people know you exist.
Yeah. Yeah. And what was the best way for you to do that? Like how like what's been kind of your secret sauce? Because you know how sometimes some people are based off of their personality, they're better suited for one type of marketing and promotion or selling themselves or putting themselves out there. Like
Yeah, yeah.
what do you like?
So I guess I'm not afraid to take a risk, right? And the biggest
Yeah.
thing that I found of at least getting to this point in my business now is like if you don't ask questions, no one's going to answer them for you, or no one's just going to come out of the blue and just say, "Hey, this is what you're looking for." So it's finding, the needs that I needed in my business that was going to work well for me, and just start talking to people. So that was other craftsmen that I either look up to or I see that are doing the type of work that I want to be doing,
Yeah.
and just kind of picking their brain, and not in like a needy way, but just like a general idea, or kind of let them talk about like what worked for them, and then
Mhm.
take that information and apply it to what works for me. And the best trait that I have is I have the ability to talk pretty well to people, so I can get my message across pretty clearly, and have that back and forth conversation to kind of lead me in the direction I'm looking to go.
Yeah. And what's been your process when a lead comes in? How are you like qualifying them?
So with my website, I'm not sure if you checked it out, but I do have a pretty decent website, and I do get some good inquiries through there. But basically, if they want to contact me through basically for a project or anything like that, there's a short little questionnaire sheet in there. So it's basically like, have they ever had custom carpentry done before? What's their timeline like? What's their budget like? Because a lot of times they can have an idea of like, hey, I want this custom piece, but they don't really know what goes into it. So if it's an
Yeah.
educated client who has had this type of work before, they're a little more straightforward, and I can tell by their approach to me, they're very organized. I get pictures, inspirations, like almost like a PowerPoint from a few. Like I've been very fortunate to have like very organized clients that knew what they wanted. They just kind of needed to be guided in the right direction.
That's
Um,
cool.
and then I get ones that like, they say they want all this cabinetry, but their budget is like a very low X amount of dollars. And it's like, okay, I'll still shoot them a message and kind of let them know my process, and kind of say, hey, based off of what you're looking at, this is kind of your ballpark of where you could be falling. And most of the time from those lower numbers, I don't hear back, but there are a few that are like, "Oh, okay, well, I need to know a little bit more. I don't know anything about it."
Yeah, and a lot of times too, if somebody's hitting you up and they've never done work before, they're really kind of fact finding, right? Like the work that you do is so special and so custom that people kind of have no idea what the budget range is. Is that, don't you find that to be the case?
Yeah, so and like with my clientele that I have, it's everyone has their thing that they like to spend money on. So it doesn't necessarily, they can make a lot of money or have, a high income, but if they don't see the value in what you're trying to sell them, they're not going to buy it. the clients that I'm working with are younger, newer families that are maybe in their like second, third home, higher up in their careers. And they're very particular. So some people like fashion and designer brand clothes or fancy cars. My clients like the craftsmanship in their home and to turn around and say, hey, I have a custom carpenter who's doing this work for
Mhm.
me.
That's their flex.
Yeah, yeah.
Their flex is, yeah, look at this custom built in, and look at this, my shelving or my entertainment center.
Yep. It's
Yeah,
that
yeah,
wow effect for when people come in.
for sure. And then the lights and the different types of material. Speaking of material, where are you sourcing your material from, and what kind of material do you tend to use?
So I use a lot of hardwoods. I have a supplier that I deal with a lot that from like I was telling you before, I worked for a lot of high-end builders. So I kind
Hmm.
of got that's how I got as far as like building my skill on top of doing my own like I like to call it YouTube University. Um,
YouTube, I say the same thing. Yeah, YouTube
yeah.
University. Yeah, yeah.
Dude, yeah,
Yeah.
man, that's been like the greatest thing that's gotten me. There's a couple of accounts that have some pretty big channels that I follow that helped me out with, when I was coming up to get to this point. But um, working with those builders, I just use those suppliers. So there's one that's about an hour from my house that has any type of hardwood. So all my rough lumber or any of my clean lumber, I can go to them. And then I have another place that I get all my like sheet goods from and plywood goods. And then I have another supplier that I'll get all my cabinet parts from. So that's all like the drawer slides, hinges, screws, etc., stuff like that.
How big is your team? Are you solo, or you got
I'm
people?
just a one-man show, man. So it's just me. I actually just about a month ago, I brought my girlfriend on, so she's like my official employee.
Hmm.
But and she handles all of basically like the paperwork, the clients, as far as emails and like basically the business office stuff that's allowed freed me up to deal with like the clients, design, and the actual production of building. But I'm doing it all. I'm doing all the building. I'm dealing with the clients.
Shoot, you work hard, man.
Yeah, yeah. I'm very particular, and it's hard to trust anybody. And
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I don't do this for the money. I truly love what I do, and I put everything that I have into all of my projects, and I want it to come out a certain type of way, especially for the clients paying, for a product. So I know in the future I'm gonna have to look into that option if I want to expand and grow. But for right now, building the LSV carpentry. I like to be fully hands-on right now.
Yeah. Do you what's an average what is a typical project like value and
Yeah, so I fall into like over the last 3 years, my projects range anywhere from like a $5,000 job to
yeah.
anywhere up to like 75 to 80,000.
And what's that, kitchens?
No, so a lot of it's millwork.
Okay, like
Um,
casings, molding.
yeah, so like the bigger projects or on the higher end or a lot of like those custom built-ins, especially if they have like a lot of drawers or doors or
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
slides, stuff like
A lot
that.
of work, yeah. How much of you doing on site, or how much are in the shop?
So I try to do about 85% of it in the shop,
Yeah.
and then I like to deliver all of my pieces in, and then I install. So like one of my things that like I really try to focus on is like, for instance, if I have a 12-foot room or 12 feet wall to wall that's getting cabinetry in,
Mm-hmm.
I don't like any breaks in the face frame. So I like continuous face frame with a proper assembly. So I know a lot of times, like if you go to like your basic box store, right, and you have 12 feet, they'll give you sections of cabinetry that'll make up your 12 feet, but you're going to have seams that you have to connect cabinetry in.
But not
I
LSV. But not.
Yeah. So what I do is I'll set all the cabinet boxes in, and then I'll come back in with a 12-foot rail and my 8-foot stiles, or depending on how tall the ceilings are, and assemble that face frame on site, and then pop that in. So it's one, it's scribed from wall to wall, real clean.
Wow. Wow, that's so cool. That's so cool. Where do you see yourself headed in the future?
Um, I like the work that I have. I want to create a bigger clientele of like the clients that I have, and for me, it's not so much like the quantity of it as for like the quality of clients that I have.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but I would like to be in obviously a proper shop. My shop right now is basically an oversized double car garage. It's 750 square feet,
Yeah.
and that's where I'm doing all of the work out of. So it's strictly dedicated to my workroom.
Yeah.
But in the future, I would like to have a proper facility and then possibly an employee or two. Me staying with the clients and then production in the shop, and then having a guy or two that's out in the field installing for me.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, as long as I guess, because I get it. And there's a lot of woodpreneurs out there that they're very perfectionist because you got into this because you love the craft, and being away from the craft is probably not appealing to you, right? Like you
Correct.
really like doing it, and if you got stuck doing paperwork and only selling, that would probably be make you miserable, right?
Yeah, so and that was part of me bringing on my girlfriend was the paperwork and the amount of time now that's going into like the logistics of the project.
Mm-hmm.
I started to see as the business is growing, it was taking me away from the production side of things. And my word is like, I pride myself on being very transparent with my clients and giving them proper timelines and not having them wait. And I wasn't living up to my word of what I was telling my
Because
clients.
you're
And
doing
that
too
was
much.
the,
Because you're doing too
yeah,
much.
it became too much. And, I don't want to do 14, 15-hour days.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I need a little bit of sleep and some personal time. So bringing her in, it's really helped with like, you know, I'm in the office maybe a couple of hours out of the week, and that's just to answer some things for her or as far as like, the accounting on jobs. But the other times I'm out in the shop and I like dealing with the clients.
Yeah.
When I'm on a project with a client, they have full access to me. Basically, I don't want to say 24/7, but during the week or on the weekends, anything as far as designs concerns, they basically have full communication with me throughout the build.
Are you what software are you using for design?
So right now I don't. That's what I'm working on. I'm
You're
looking
like hand
and
sketching? You're like
so
you're
I
built
yeah I hand draw everything.
and you're building off of like their inspiration.
Yeah, so like they'll for like a quick like for instance they'll send me like 4 or 5 pictures. Hey, I like this detail, I like that.
Yeah.
Um, I'll have a little bit of a conversation with them. I'll go out to their space to see like what I'm working with as far as physical dimensions. And then, yeah, I'll spend a day or a day and a half of sitting down and kind of creating what they're looking for based off of their inspiration. And that's kind of given me a little bit of a niche too, because I'm able to design for them. So the
Yeah.
fact that like I can build and design, and I don't want to say I can compete with like professional interior designers or architects, but I do have a good eye for things and proportions and certain shadows and depth that like I can guide a client into the right direction that the finished product they're absolutely in love with.
That's cool. And are you doing a design fee?
I do. So like I try to feel out my clients. I've had a few that have taken it. There's a few that I have offered it and then never heard of. But what I'm starting to see is like the amount of time that I'm spending into like
Thousand
the
percent.
designing and the projects. And with the few projects that I have coming up, I've included that time to be paid for like the design and at least get them a design and then an accurate budget so that they
Yeah.
know exactly what's going to go into the project.
You're basically getting paid to quote the project, you know what I mean? So that's
Yep.
yeah, I always advise my clients to just you got to put together a design fee just because there's a lot going into quoting, a lot.
Oh yeah.
Um, what oh, what's your tool stack? How are you making those boxes?
So I mean, I have proper shop equipment. I have a cabinet
Yeah,
saw, shaper, joiners, planers,
yeah, yeah.
um, basically,
No
and
CNC?
everything is used. Which I have a few tools that I bought new, but a lot of like the bigger equipment I bought used.
Mm-hmm.
But proper shop equipment to assemble all this stuff. I don't do anything with CNCs or anything. I don't have the space, nor am I interested in it.
Yeah,
Um, I like doing things by my hands. So that's
yeah.
breaking down the sheet goods and then the proper tooling to get it to be whatever the design is.
Big ass boards on table saws, that kind of stuff, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. What are you excited about in your business?
I'm just excited for the growth. The last 3 years, and I do everything through QuickBooks, so that's like my management of I can see what comes in, what goes out, and over the last 3 years, I've had so this October next month makes officially 3 years,
Sick.
um, and there's been pretty good steady growth, and my name is getting out there more. I'm getting more calls and more clients that are inquiring for my services. So I
Do you have a
have
backlog now?
what's that?
Do you have a backlog?
Yes. So like
Cool.
I could start to see I have enough clients now and I have enough projects and I can kind of see like, the areas that I've worked in, get basically some data off of the last couple of years.
Yeah. So guessing around 250? Is that where you're at? Maybe?
As far as like total income.
Revenue. Just revenue, yeah.
So this year, this will be my best year or the biggest year so far, and it was in the like low or high one, so like 150, 160.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I thought you might have like gotten a bunch of larger millwork projects, but those take a lot of time, right?
No, so they do, and like I said, this year was really my big like blowout
Yeah,
year. So this is
yeah,
where
yeah,
I've
yeah.
done into the six figures, and then so I am booked to the end of the year, so I know exactly
Yeah, yeah,
where
yeah,
that
yeah.
number is going to be. But I mean, I'm again like transparency. So this year's budget or estimated around like 150, 160. The year prior to that was 50,
Yeah.
and then
Well,
year one of business
that's a
was
life changer
40.
for you, right? That's like,
Oh yeah,
whoa.
man.
That's like, congrats, man. That's incredible.
Thank
That's
you, thank you.
by yourself too, man. That's so cool. You know what? I was projecting higher because you're in the New York tri-state area,
Yeah,
and you could honestly, you could probably charge a little bit more. You know that, right?
yeah, I could.
Yeah.
I could
Yeah.
definitely do that. And also too, it's just the volume of work, right? So if
It's
you
the
look
volume,
at
yeah.
like the amount of clients that I had up until this point this year, obviously I've had the most amount of clients, right?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
have the
yeah,
most amount of jobs that are locked in, deposits are already paid.
yeah.
Um, so it's just, and like I have an accountant, I have a really good accountant, and that's like any business owner, that's like number one. You need a
Yeah,
really
you
good
need to come.
accountant.
Yeah.
And as far as the numbers that he projects, man, they're more than I ever thought I would ever do. But
That's
based
so
off of what
great,
he
man. I'm
sees,
so
man,
happy
it's
for you. That's
so
so
like that's
cool.
the excitement. I want to see. That's what I'm looking forward to in the future, and to see what this turns out to be.
Well, your work is super nice, and I see and one of the things that I like about your niche of the woodpreneur world is that you are adding value to people's home. You're actually adding, uh, for many ways, it's a, it's a, it's a necessity, right? For
Yep.
them to get the best use out of the space in their house, and a lot of these cookie cutter, brand new builds, like they're not doing what you can do in their house. They're just,
No.
they're building basic stuff. It can really, really add dimension, and like we talked about, it's a flex for them to be able to say, "Oh, I got this custom cabinetry, got this built in." Oh, I'm making amazing use of underneath my stairs, right? Like so. Um, cool. So, all right. So this is the part of podcast when I give you any marketing or business advice. What is a challenge that I can help you with right now?
Um. So I thought about this question and how I would go about it. I guess, and I think I kind of know the answer and what I have to do, but it's always good to just bounce, throw it out there and see how it comes back. So, like I told you, from where my area of where I was known over the last 10 years of doing the work that I was doing, was in a particular area. I moved to almost 2 hours away, right? So, a
Okay.
lot of the clients right now that I'm dealing with is still back in the area that my
Yeah.
reputation is in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Going into 2024, I'm looking to start targeting, basically shortening my radius and kind of keeping that. So, like right now, I'm up to like 2 hours away for a project, and that's 2 hours there, two
That's
hours
too
back.
far. That's too far. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, luckily, like I said, 85% of it I'm doing in my shop, and then there's a day or two that I'm on site. but I would like to
But there's
shorten that. And
quoting too, right? Like you got to go out there, quote,
yeah,
visit.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a lot. Yeah,
But so I like to just get into a smaller radius. I have an area that I know that I'm gonna hit and, basically target market or market target for what I'm doing.
yeah,
But it's just how to get more in front of the clients that have been using me, but just getting to those clients in a different area.
yeah. So, I mean, the essentially the question is, how do I make myself the number one person in my area? How do I dominate my local area? Because in my past, my traditional clientele are 2 hours away in another geography, right?
Yep,
So for you, it's about finding the centers of influence, right? So that on the easier note, it's about finding those referral partners that like interior designers, home builders, decorators, realtors, real estate developers, the people that are actually serving your clients. And
okay,
honestly, the easiest thing for you to do is to go to Facebook, go to Instagram. I think you're active on Instagram,
yep,
and find those people via the hashtags and
yeah,
find those places and send them DMs. Send them DMs and say, hey, look, I've been killing it in Central Jersey. I moved to North Jersey, and I'm looking for some people that I can collaborate on projects. I specialize in these three areas. I can provide referrals of people from 2 hours away, but if you have any projects that I can bid on, I'd be happy to hop on a 10-minute call with you.
yep,
With that, you are what you're doing, and again, what you can do is search on Instagram DMs. Once you find them, go to find them on Facebook as well and friend them, right?
yep,
Like all their posts. Just become so like I've been done a similar thing, right? Like most of my life was in New York City. I moved to Chicago, but I also worked in Los Angeles, right? So my main world was New York and Los Angeles, and I didn't really have a market here in Chicago.
yep,
But even with this business, I work with people from all over the United States and all over the world. But one of the things is to find the key people, and that's one of the first things that I did was that find the most influential people in your town who are serving your audience and merely introduce yourself and add value. How can you add value? I'm happy to give a free quote. I'm happy to give a free design consult. I'm happy to take you to lunch. I'm happy to, you know what I mean? Give you a cutting board. Like whatever it is
yep,
that you
yep.
can. I mean, you're New Jersey, right? Like it's all about relationships, right? Like
Oh, 100%.
it's all about relationship. So, but that's like on a if you want to use leverage, the best thing for you to do is to find the people they have a client roster of 20, 30 people, and you don't need a lot of those people. Those people are going to do the work for you. You
Yep,
can be like, I'm happy to give you referral fees. I'm happy to figure out what's the best way for me to, but like I have bookings. I'm looking at projects that are starting in January, the first quarter of 2024, and I'd be happy to talk about any projects and give free quotes and free estimates. That's the first thing that I would do. The second thing that I would do, the second thing is I would just start running ads. I would run ads of you talking in front of finished projects. And like, hey, I'm Louis Vignapiano and I'm from LSV Carpentry. I'm serving this area and I'm looking to do these projects starting in 2024. Contact me now um, for a design quote or a consultation. I'm be happy to come out to you if you are in this city, this city, this city,
okay,
right? That's the second way. So the first one's going to cost you time. The second way is going to cost you money.
Yep.
The third way, it's the long game, is to, and everybody that listens to my podcast knows this, bolster up your personal Facebook page and make yourself the most popular guy in the area. So I'm trying to look. Do you have a logo that you're happy with?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. So hold on. Let me look at your logo. Yeah. Dude, do you have hoodies and hats?
I have like shirts and stuff. I'm actually in the process of putting together a winter order.
Dude, make like a really sick hoodie. A sick hoodie. Thick, right?
Okay.
A nice hat, and make yourself and friend everybody in your town. Friend your neighbors. And you know how you look on Facebook and there's people that you have mutual connections with but you're not friends with?
Yeah.
Friend all of them. Hop into the Facebook groups of the rich towns in your area, and literally just introduce yourself. That's all you have. Do not sell. Introduce yourself. And if you want to take it the next step further, sponsor a little league team.
Yeah, that's funny you said that. I was just looking into something like that to like just get my name into the community.
Sponsor a little league team.
Yeah.
Sponsor a baseball team. Join the Chamber of Commerce.
Okay.
And the local builders association. So the first one is like the highest leverage activity. The second one is probably highest leverage activity that just costs you time. The next one is the highest leverage activity that will cost you money, right? The paid ads. And then the third is the very much the long game. As that's happening, like I have clients right now, they walk around with their hoodies and their shirts and they get recognized at places. And that's where you want to be. You want to be the place where like you're driving with your truck, people are like, "Oh my God, I seen you on Facebook. I seen you on Instagram." Like that's like how you literally become number one in your area. I mean, of course, there's other things in there. Like there's a bunch of like you can do, search engine, or you could just post content. I mean, that's the other thing that I would do is probably just post 5 stories a day, and just tell people what you're working on. And in your posts, tag your local area.
Yeah.
So that
I do. That out of everything, I do see like a hit on that. Exactly what you said was like the activity on the Instagram. That the consistency is definitely what gets the name out there.
Yeah, for sure. So that's exactly what I would do.
Okay.
Because those 3 things. One is partner with people that are serving your audience. 2 is to do paid ads. I mean, because look, people get so scared about paid ads, but if a project's minimum going to cost you $5,000 up to $80,000, you could spend $500 to $1,000 a month. If you get one project from that, what's going to actually end up happening is that you're going to get a bunch of leads. A bunch of them are going to be tire kickers. A bunch of them are going to be real people that you can follow up with. But everybody can end up on your mailing list that you send an email out once a month to let them know that you have projects.
Yeah.
And then if you want to even get more ninja, you can hire somebody to DM all of your followers and call them and book appointments and sort them out all while you're building. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyway, that would be my approach. Is that helpful?
Oh yeah, man. There's definitely, like I said, that's why it's good for questions like this, is just to hear, everything and then tweak it to like what's been working for me and have those approaches, or at least now there's different insight of what direction have to go into.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you said before you get a lot from referrals, right?
Correct.
If that's working for you, you have to do more of it. Period.
Yep.
Period. That's like if you got 4 referral sources, you need 40.
Yeah.
You need 40. And then I guess the last thing is once you get up to like 6 months, you should really hire somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the big talk right now. I think,
Yeah, no, I mean, well, because here's the thing is if you don't work, you don't make any money.
well, exactly.
If you're not working, you're not making any money. It's like you can't take vacations, you can't do any of that sort of stuff. And so um that's long term start to think about a little bit bigger, building something
Oh
bigger.
well, yeah, 100%, man. I definitely I have in my head when the belt comes off and when I need to become more of the
Yeah.
actual business owner, and
Right.
not so much in the production of it. But being my age, the how young the business is, there's still I feel like that
Yeah,
I
yeah,
know
yeah.
everyone doesn't want to use that word anymore, like the grind time, but there is a certain amount that you have to put into it, especially because I want it to be a very particular way so that when those
Yeah, yeah.
employees do come on, there's a clear path as far as expectations and either training of getting them on par as far as what's acceptable or
Yeah.
just finding those skilled craftsmen that need the right place to work.
Yeah. And I will give you a contrarian view of that is most of the people that I've either interviewed or I've worked with, they went in that as soon as things got busier, they knew the next step was to hire someone. I
Yep,
mean, you did it, right? Like you brought on somebody to help with the admin stuff, and you're learning a lot during that time, right? The
correct.
next thing is to like have somebody to maybe clean up, like do the things that you don't have to because your highest leverage activity are your high dollar an hour things.
Correct.
Bringing on somebody to clean up, sweep, all of that sort of stuff, that should never be you. Like you shouldn't do any of that. And that's easy to train. So I feel like that is your next natural hire is to have an assistant. You know how far you're booked out. Like you're paying them, 25 bucks an hour, 20 bucks an hour, and they're carrying tools, they're cleaning up, they're sweeping up, they're maintaining, putting stuff away. Um, while because if and then as they're watching you do things, there are certain things again you don't have to do,
Correct.
and then it frees you up just a little bit. If you could
Yeah.
buy yourself an extra hour or two a day times 5, 10 hours.
Oh, it's tenfold, man. I mean, at the end of every
Yeah,
project or when that deadline's coming, I always say, like, I wish I had those few extra hours.
exactly. So
And it is because it's everything from the cleanup to the putting the tools away to like making sure,
and
everything
you're
is
done.
flowing in
But
perfect.
listen, you've just installed and your back is hurting and you're like,
Yeah.
you're done. You're done, right? You're
Yeah.
done.
Yeah. Yeah.
The last thing you want to do is clean up.
Yep.
And the cleanup has to be perfect, right? So
Yeah, because if that's not right, that's, the project could be beautiful, but if if it's messy or there's anything out of place, they'll remember that far more than they'll
more than
remember the work.
exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway, dude, thank you so much for taking the time to tell your story.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
How can people follow you?
So my Instagram handle is at LSV Carpentry, and
Cool.
then I have my website, which is lsvcarpentry.com.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to sharing your story.
Thanks, man.
All right.
Take care.